Welcome to a look into the future. What would you do if you can go into the future and ask yourself questions about how to grow your firm, how to transition to advisory services, and more? Well, luckily, we can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham, and learn the knowledge we need at our firms to evolve into advisory services and become the most relevant advisor to our clients. Paul brings three key things with him. Number one, he's built a successful accounting practice in the UK, so he understands accountants. In fact, he built his firm into an advisory powerhouse, which sold for an impressive $45 million in 2001. Number two, he's taken the business public, building it to a market value in excess of $400 million. So he really understands what business owners need and value, and what we as accountants need to provide to them. And finally, as I said, number three, we don't need to invent time travel or the flux capacitor. We can just ask Paul and learn from the transition he made 20 years ago in the UK into providing business advisory services, as that trend is here today in the United States. I'm Garrett Wagner, your entrepreneurial CPA channel host, and I'm excited to be joined by Paul Latham of Hay & Rock Solutions. We're going to keep picking up steam here as we go, building upon what we learned. Last time, we talked about starting to create a plan for the business, a plan to bring things together. And Paul, as always, I'm eager to hear your process and your next steps on building that plan to drive value and drive change in the organization.
Hi, Garrett. Yeah, it's a really important thing for business owners to know how to create a consistent plan amongst their team. And the key word there is consistent. We've talked in previous episodes about the three ingredients of business success: vision, plan, and desire. And obviously one of those three ingredients is plan, and building plans is a really important part of that. And also remembering that most of the business owners that we're working with are what I call entrepreneurial in-between zone business owners. And they just don't know how to do this. They've built their business on plate spinning, and they need to get their team involved, and they don't know how to build a consistent plan. In my experience, business owners, they normally try and do it in their head when they're driving about or watching TV, and their plans are doomed to fail. So in terms of an overview, does that sort of make sense, Garrett?
Makes complete sense for the overview. Like we talked a lot about, and we talk about even behind the scenes, consistency, methodology are the key. So how do you kind of go about architecting that and pulling it together?
Yeah. So, see, I'm a big believer in process, and the process that I've always used is something we call plan, do, test, act. I'll talk you through it. And the plan stage of that plan, do, test, act is really broken into three components: brainstorm, evaluate, and then finally, and most importantly, force field. So brainstorm and evaluate. We sort of went through this actually in the last episode when we talked about the 7 wastes. We had a team that was focused on, for example, inefficiency, and they brainstormed where the problems happened in the business. And the truth is, most businesses don't brainstorm properly. They tend to get distracted on a particular area. They immediately try and fix it. So good idea, brainstorm properly, using an experienced facilitator, capture all the potential ideas to improve. So in that, for example, waste brainstorming, we've captured 50 ideas as a minimum. Having done that, the second step is to evaluate those ideas. As we said last time, typically they fall into 2 types: the easy to solve and but they're sort of easy to solve but relatively low value, but also the high value and hard to fix. And so for each idea, I get them to say, so how easy would this be to solve on a range from easy to hard, 1 to 10, and how much value if we sold it from low value to high value, again, 1 to 10. And if you do that, you sort of end up with 4 types of idea. They're either high value and hard, or they're high value and easy, and that often doesn't happen, to be fair. If it happens, then it's great, but it often usually doesn't happen. It's low value ideas and hard to do, in which case just don't do them, or it's low value and easy. So you typically end up with high value and hard. This is where the real business value lies, but by definition, it's not quick. Or the low value and easy. And as I said in the last episode, these are great for building team momentum. So you've gone through this brainstorming, you've gone through the evaluation, you've identified a really great idea, high value and hard to do, but now you need to build a proper plan. And that takes you to the third stage. It's what I call a force field. And now what you're doing is you're beginning to build a plan, and you're starting to get really granular, and you take the idea and you think about it from two perspectives. One, what are the positive things, the big steps that we must do to implement that idea? And you would typically say, let's think of at least 5 big steps. And then even more critically, 2, what are the negative forces that are going to get in our way to stop the plan from happening? And you think of those 5, let's say, negative forces. And by the way, they're usually very similar. It's usually the things that stop a plan are usually things like, we haven't got time to do it. We haven't got the skills to implement. Maybe we haven't got the budget to implement. Maybe there's conflicting priorities, but they're all very similar. And what you then do, having established for each of those, say, 5 big actions, think of now 5 sub-steps to make the plan happen. Think of 5 ways we could reduce that negative force. So, for example, if we've got no skills, maybe we need to do some training. Maybe we need to introduce subcontractors. Maybe we need to recruit temporary employees. So you begin to look at ways of combating that. And in that way, you've generated 5 big ideas, let's say with 5 sub-steps, that's 25 actions. And you've identified 5 big negative forces with 5 sub-steps to combat, and that's another 25 actions. And in less than typically about an hour, you've got a team who have established the bones of a plan, in this case with about 50 actions. And really critically, you've involved the whole team in building that outline plan, the bones of a plan. So you begin to establish team consensus. Does that make sense, Gareth?
Yeah, and you got to build this plan, which is there's multiple parts there. You hit on a lot of the good pieces of how you kind of bring this together. You build the plan, you get team consensus, you get everybody together. And our role, once again, our role in CPAs and accountants and advisors is to help facilitate that, help talk them through. But kind of you've got the plan. How do we kind of start to work in the do, test, act next part into the plan?
Yeah. So what you've basically done, you've established that force field plan, usually with a team of 4 or 5 or 6 people, and you've established that bones of a plan. And then the really, really key step is then to say, okay, who's accountable now to take that outline plan? We've built 80% of the plan. Who's accountable to take that bones of a plan and put flesh on the bones? And that's the do stage. And so what you do is you've established the force field outline plan. Let's say, Garrett, you're accountable. Okay, we're going to meet up, Garrett, in about 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you're going to put some flesh on the bones, and we're going to meet up again, and you're going to present it back to the team in terms of the more detailed plan. And at the end of that 3 or 4 weeks, what will then happen is you've done that, you've sort of basically fleshed it out, and really what should then happen is either you need to do some more work, or everyone's happy with the detail. Typically they'd be happy with the detail, and then the next step is to say, okay, now let's test the implementation of that plan. We may not want to go full-scale implementation yet, so let's just test it. And let's just test, for example, let's say it was a plan to win new clients. Well, we wouldn't necessarily want to do this with every single new person we met. Why don't we just test it with 3 or 4 or 5 people and see if it works in practice? And maybe the first time we do it, we realize we've forgotten something. So we go back and we amend the plan slightly. We go through some iterations, and we iterate as many times as necessary. And only then, when you are properly satisfied, do we then say, okay, we've put together the bones of the plan, we've put together a detailed plan, we've tested it. Now let's act and implement across the business. And so what you get then is a consistent team-based approach to building proper plans that goes through a proper process, plan, do, test, act, that is essentially designed to move your business towards your ultimate vision. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, me, I love talking about vision and kind of moving towards that shared vision, even at the firm. I think that's one of the real benefits of this for you as a firm to get into advisory services. It's not going to help you grow your firm revenue-wise, but doing this stuff with your client, you're also going to learn how to do it for your own firm internally. And your firm's going to grow as you help your clients grow internally. It's going to work both ways. So some more great topics, talking about how to build a plan, do, test, act, team consensus, vision. As always, Paul, thank you for the time. I always walk away learning something new and know that our audience will as well. Now, something you and me talk about behind the scenes, kind of as we're getting ready to put the flesh on the bones for our episodes we record here. We're always talking about how we're surprised in most CPA firms we talk with. Not only are they not ready for the future, but they don't even realize it yet. We think you need to know where you stand today. Is your firm ready for the future and ready to shift into becoming the most relevant advisor? Take a minute and sign up for your own free biz survey. Get an objective assessment of how prepared your firm is for the future. As a special offer for watching the show, we'll provide you with the results of your biz score and a quick pub meeting, as Paul says, to review the results with the Hay and Rock team. I highly encourage you to take the test and see how ready your firm is for future success. As always, thank you everyone for watching today. Click to subscribe to the YouTube channel, stay up to date with the latest episodes. And as always, we challenge you today to take action to change the world and invest in yourself.